This video is part of an introduction, not just for legal nurse consultants, but for all nurses, RNs, APRNs. Many of you all call me up and ask me legal questions. And remember, it does not replace legal advice in your area. We've got plenty of comrades that are nurse attorneys that we can turn you on to in different states. Now, if it's federal, we can help on that. Military as well, we can help on that. What this 10-minute segment is about is the summary of a book I wrote, and it's a labor of love. What I first intended to do was just write it for LNCs. Well, there's plenty of books about that. The thing is that those books aren't written by a lawyer who's practiced law or tried over 50 cases and different kinds of things. And we want to find out how lawyers think. Many of the legal nurse consultants that I've talked to said, Joe, I took these $1,000, $10,000, $20,000 courses, and I can't find a job. And so the next few minutes, I'm going to explain how attorneys think. And also, we're going to be offering a book here shortly, a course that will not only show you about legal nurse consulting, but about marketing, advertising yourself, and doing those things. But again, if you don't ever want to become a legal nurse consultant, don't. What it does is it helps you become a better nurse. It helps you understand risk management principles. It helps you, prevents you from being reported to the board. And that's why I want to thank my good friend, Miss Fitzgerald, who inspired me to also expand this book to people that may not want to quit their day job or do legal nurse consulting because they've heard the worst of it, that you take all this time, this energy, you pay all this money, and then you can't find a job with lawyers. Well, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. For those that are aspiring to be a more cognizant nurse and to take care of yourselves, first of all, let's say one thing. How do lawyers think and what do they expect of legal nurse consultants? Number one, and I know that we're going to pull the Band-Aid off, is that legal nurse consulting is a great field. I really support American Association of Legal Nurse Consultants, but most lawyers don't care if you are certified as a legal nurse consultant, and I'm saying 99% plus. They're not asking whether you are a legal nurse consultant. They're asking about your training, experience, and knowledge, and whether or not you're going to testify or you're going to work behind the scenes, which is called a purely consulting expert. Do not quit your day job. The other thing that I want to talk about how lawyers think is not just not caring whether you're a legal nurse consultant or not. They may pay lip service to it, but I've been practicing in this 22 years plus now. And I can tell you, by virtue of your training, experience, and knowledge, say if I want an OB nurse for a shoulder dystocia case, or if I want an ER nurse on some delay in treatment that left somebody quadriplegic, God forbid, and nobody was put on a cardiac board, they didn't do the appropriate tests, and things like that. Now that delves a little bit into the medical opinions, but also nurses' opinions matter. What is the standard of care for nurses? The overview, if you're interested in the course, you don't have to be an LNC to take my course, but you can understand the world of how legal practice works and what lawyers are looking for. First of all, we can break it down, let's say medical malpractice, which is one of the biggest areas, but in some areas of the country have been limited by tort reform, meaning you can only recover so much. But the way I do it, instead of doing it law school style, you do all of the elements. All we do is negligence, causation, damages. Did they make a mistake? And did that negligence or deviation from the standard of care cause something? And was that a direct link? And then lastly, did that cause create damages? Did that cause create somebody to be paralyzed the rest of their life? Did it cause somebody to need care? Like a lot of the time, some of these legal nurse consultants can become these specialists that we call vocational rehab specialists in some areas of the country, life care planners, and those are areas that are specialized too, that you can help attorneys with. But, you know, the outline of the book talks about the introduction to law. When we're looking at chapter 1, we talk about what a legal nurse consultant is and what it isn't. And we also talk about areas of the law you'll be covering as an LNC. That's in chapter 2. And chapter 3, law basics. And that's for everybody, whether you want to be a legal nurse consultant or not. Chapter 4 is talking about medical malpractice insurance and the myths, the legends, and what is true. Chapter 5 is the fundamentals of the litigation process. This is for everybody. You don't have to be, and I repeat it, you don't have to be an aspiring legal nurse consultant. There's a lot of them out there right now, and competition is stiff. One thing is, if you're going to be a legal nurse consultant, you go to the well where the water is sweet. You go to the people that handle certain areas of the law. And then we talk about the trial. I've been through different trials, and I'll tell you one thing. No one knows what 12 people in a box are thinking. There are trials that I thought, boy, I got them in the bag, and it didn't go my way. And another one, boy, there's no hope, and I won. So, I mean, these are things that you just don't expect. 12 people on a jury, they have their biases and their prejudices, whether they say it or not. A judge will say, can you be fair? Well, can you do everything as far as listening to the evidence and not be biased? We all have our biases. Then we talk about the fundamentals of business and getting started. If you want to be an LNC, if you don't, say you're an ICU nurse, ER nurse, OB, doesn't matter. You're learning about what it is about practicing the law, about what lawyers want, about how they think. That's what makes this course book different. And that is why I want to talk about that. Marketing, boy, I wish I could redo a lot of my mistakes when I first started out. That's what got me into law school, reviewing records and helping out lawyers. But then I found out it was much more than that. Lawyers also are thinking about 1,000 things. How is this witness going to play in front of a jury? Number 2, do they qualify, and does their CV or their resume reflect what can or cannot be impugned, or they go for credibility and say, you just don't have what it takes to testify for this. That's the other side. And then, of course, we'll attack their expert as well. In many of these cases, you need an expert. And then we talk about service agreements, how to get paid if you're going to be a legal nurse consultant. All these things are in there for legal nurse consultants. And my brethren that are ER and ICU nurses, and also those that worked in critical care of all types, this is a good starter book to teach you about the law. No one has ever taught us about the law. What are the myths? You don't need insurance. We got you covered. Well, that's bunk. The hospital, as I know, I used to represent hospitals, they think about themselves, they think about corporate, the shareholders, the insurance, and you are dead last. And that's the truth. That's how attorneys think. Ex-employees, we'll find them and we'll tell them, now you don't want to be on this alone without insurance, so go along with us for the ride. It's almost the carrot and the stick, and that's the truth. And I said, okay, you finally get a set of records. Let's say if you want to be a legal nurse consultant, you look at the records and you find out what the attorney wants. what sort of style he has. Many attorneys like the chronology. Some of them like a narrative, like a story, because attorneys, when they're preparing for a trial, the story matters. The narrative matters. What is the theme of the trial? Is it betrayal? You trusted in this car. You trusted in this drug that you took. You trusted in a product that was put out there that caused cancer. Those are the things that an attorney is looking for in his mind, plus his experts, plus his documents. There is an art to putting together the records, and you need to know how to do that. And then I give you more general tips on how to organize the records, and then how to do summaries, because lawyers don't want to read thousands of pages. They already do already. You may have to look at depositions, which are sworn statements out of court, and help the attorney out that way. It depends on the attorney's style. Everyone is different. I was lucky enough to study under Jerry Spence and the trial lawyers college, and I learned a lot. And I learned that the story matters, to being vulnerable, to telling the truth, the narrative, not what you see on TV, but telling people the story of the person that's injured. It's not about the attorney. It's about the person that has suffered. When we're looking at that, we look at case evaluations. As I said before, say our medical malpractice example. Did it cause something, the deviation from the standard of care? Were they negligent, first of all? And did it lead to something that caused damages? And that means long-term damages. We're talking about disabled or dead. Those are the types of cases that we're looking at. You really have to prove up your damages. You also look as a legal nurse consultant, now more and more, even with electronic medical records, you can see if there's been some hocus pocus, some sort of messing around with the records. That's where you come in. And you're triumphing in this mysterious world of the law. Whether you want to be a legal nurse consultant or not, you want to have that confidence that when you walk in there, you know how the game is played. Because a lot of this is about, and when I mean game, I'm not talking about some Ouija board or Monopoly. I'm talking about the real world, how things are looked at, from management, corporate structure, all the way down to boots on the ground, you taking care of that patient. And how to prevail as a testifying expert in case you're called on. That's the summary of the book, but I recommend it for everyone. I'm going to be redoing the preface and saying just that. You don't have to be a legal nurse consultant, nor do you ever have to be one. We want nurses that are educated on the law. We want nurses that understand how things work, because the more educated you are, carrying your own insurance, always occurrence-based, learning how management and corporate law, the corporate guys think, and also understanding that they're looking at all of these things before they even get to you. And if you decide to be a legal nurse consultant, this book will help you. But I want everybody to know out there that many of you all have given me feedback and say, Joe, I just don't want to be a legal nurse consultant. I'm not an advertiser. I don't want to go knocking door to door and asking lawyers whether or not they need some help. I'm discouraged. I haven't gotten a lot of work. I can help on that too. Those of you in the middle that did go to expensive legal nurse consulting reviews, we can help, and we also provide advice. I plan on doing a podcast and bringing on nurses that may have no experience in the law, some that have reviewed records, and others that are experts. Pat Iyer, one of my good friends I've spoken with, she is an expert. She's written many books on the subject, and I want to commend her for that. But I just want to thank you all for giving me this opportunity, and especially to Ms. Fitzgerald. This video is dedicated to you to let you know why we are refurbishing the book to also extend out to our brothers and sisters that may not want to enter the legal field or don't even want to get 100 yards near a lawyer. But they want to get smarter. They want to understand how risk management principles work, and they want to defend themselves every time they clock in, clock out, or they take on a patient, or they're an APRN, and they want to know more about how the law works. We've separated the law and we've separated medicine so far afield from each other that we need to bring them together and understand. This is attorney and nurse practitioner Joe Flores, proud to be someone who defends nurses, proud to be someone who defends people in serious accidents, and also protects licenses. Thank you, and God bless.